some of the stuff I've been working through with the Regrarians farm planning service. This is our property. This is in Google Earth Pro, and this is kind of a flat pasture, hillside, slopes down. This is a kind of a trouble area for us. It's our entrance, and we're going to be building something called a ford crossing. And essentially it's just a low water crossing area that's reinforced, and we get quite a bit of water that runs off down into our property, either overflow from this pond or just catchment that just all flows right down this way. And when it rains in this area, it could rain 6 inches, 8 inches in a really short amount of time. And so this area just floods, flash floods, and our options are a culvert, a bridge, or this ford crossing. And we've decided on the ford crossing because the culverts, we were quoted on two 36-inch culverts in this area, and there's a 36-inch culvert that runs across the road from just this area right here. So to have only those two right here doesn't even take into account any of the overflow here. So we're just concerned that it would still be undersized even with those large culverts in a significant rain event. So we're looking at the ford, because the ford at least is passive, and it's going to be flush with the soil around it. The water should be able to just flow right over the top of it. And in most instances that we're aware of, that water is gone fairly quickly. I think 24 hours would be an overshoot. I think I was there 3 or 4 days after a 6-inch rain, and it was pretty muddy down here, but there wasn't any standing water by any means. Just doesn't really drain all that well. So that's one of our big challenges to start off. Another challenge that we have is fencing. I'll pull up kind of what I've been working through on fencing. Everything here in red is fence that's already there. Some of it's in not great condition. Like you can see, if I click on this fence right here, condition's okay. There's some gullies along this that we will need to address eventually. And why I say that is that there's, these gullies are across the fence. There's the option for an animal to maybe get down in through that, and we want to prevent that, and just a hazard. This is old cross fencing. This is about this piece here and this little section here are the only areas of cross fencing that are still able to hold any kind of animals. They're probably going to need to go eventually anyways, but that's at least just a start of what we have. And then this is the neighbor put this fence in not too long ago, so this one's in pretty good condition. The stuff in orange is what we need to add. So this fence back here is pretty much gone, and there is no fence here. And so we're gonna put a new fence across this creek, with enough room that we can, maybe if we end up having goats, we can put some goats back in here occasionally and just do some movable electric fencing. But for the most part, we don't really even need to graze this area, and it's kind of a fragile area. It's kind of a steeper slope down to the creek. Not as steep as the neighbors. This is basically a flat edge here, which is really a cool view from up on this hill down here. So that's kind of our fencing. Another big challenge for us is road design. So we're looking at a few different options right now. This is kind of our access category of our planning. Let's turn that on. So you can see it's kind of a bunch of different roads going through there. I think what we're looking at doing is this option right here. So this is a pasture road, not too much for improvements on this one, but this would be kind of our main road, and this is where I have culvert here, but this is going to be the ford, and you can kind of see it outlined in red where that ford crossing kind of needs to be. And that's just, like I mentioned, it's just reinforced ground. So we'll dig down about a foot, add some larger rocks, and then add smaller 1-inch rocks or so on top of that. So it winds up and back, and we love the ability that, there's a bunch of different turns in this road that, you kind of don't really know what's going to happen next. This is kind of a proposed vineyard area. Be kind of nice southern exposure hill. This is old cattle barn, cattle pens, all dilapidated. It's pretty much scrap metal at this point. There's some aluminum that I'll reuse, but a lot of the wood's all rotted out and that kind of stuff. So, so this is our road that keeps coming back up to where we're going to have our home. I'll just put the home on there. There. So this is our road. This is another little gully right here. So what we're planning on doing is putting a dam above the road, and that will catch water from this road, stop this from becoming a gully, allow us to put some casitas down here, and then we'll drive up to the main house. We're working with an architect right now on the main house, the bathhouse down here, and the 3 tiny homes. And then these are just maybe some proposed farm buildings. Still need to work through that stuff. But so those are kind of like the big projects that we're working on right now. Just getting everything kind of surveyed, figure out if this is where we want to put things. We'll have to look at getting in touch with a geotechnical engineer on making sure that these are sound places. This is a good spot. These are good spots. This is a good spot. I think, I dug down about 2 feet here just with a shovel, and it's pretty much clay after about 6 inches. So I think we shouldn't have any problem with that ford there, at least as a nice temporary solution. The third option down here, I didn't go through again, but that's a bridge. And at this point, it's just not really cost feasible. We're planning on having some construction vehicles come back here. Putting in a bridge that's large enough would be just not really in the cards. So that's kind of the first steps here. Kind of walk through some of these really cool maps that we got. I'm still learning about them, so there's some that I don't really know too much about yet, but let me turn off these other things here. Just like relief maps, hillshade maps, flow, watersheds. We have I'll put our contour map. There's our border, our boundary of our property. And then, so these are kind of cool. Wind exposure. So this shows, areas where you're in that darker blue, it's higher wind exposure. Down in this orange is not as high. It's kind of cool. We're going to be in an area that's not as high as up here, but it's in this, green area with our home. So a little bit exposed, but I think that'll be hopefully nice. It won't be too much, but the breeze is nice to have. Let's see, another cool map. The slope map showing severity of slope. So for the most part, everything that we're doing for the road and all that stuff is actually in pretty good, you know, pretty nice slope. It's not going to be too much of a problem for us. You can see we have a gully right here. This is pretty significant gully on our property. Over the years, they've just shoved whatever they could down in this area. Old tires, there's bricks and old pieces of concrete, anything to try and stuff that gully and stop the erosion. Hopefully with the practices that we're planning on incorporating with rotating livestock and, just managing the native plant species to have deep roots, and that alone should really significantly cut back on what's happening here. And this property in general doesn't have a ton of issues with it around this side. There's another little gully right in here, a couple more down in this area. Let's see some of these other ones. I mean, like I said, I don't know. I have to do a lot more learning on some of these, but they're really, really beautiful maps, and I'm excited to get some copies of these kind of printed up. And this one shows water flow. So this is the area that we're planning on putting a dam. So I don't think we should have any issues with that filling. It's just going to be about making sure it doesn't leak. Kind of cool. Let me find that aspect map. That's not the one I wanted. Anyways, I'm still working through it, but really just cool to see. There were some ridges right here that you can't see with the naked eye, or not ridges, but valleys that someone had shaped at some point, trying to direct water flow. This is a berm that was built at maybe in the 40s or 50s. But I think what we'll end up doing is smoothing this out, opening up this view right here. So most of the year we'll have a pretty nice view of the pasture and this kind of hillside here. Anyways, that's kind of an update.